Welcome to the Inner Athlete Podcast, where we discuss all things youth athlete development and youth mentoring.
Fellas, yeah, we're live. What's going on?
Nothing too major, mate. Just got a new housemate moved in, which has been good fun, and got my prelim final on the weekend, so just staying hydrated for that one, and plenty of water.
Good. Dave?
Yeah, training hard. I'm going to try some 1x20 next week, which should be fun. So trying new things, which is good.
Cool. Good. I've actually taken up boxing.
Boxing?
Yeah.
Very nice.
I enjoy it. Yeah. Nice skill to learn.
Have you knocked anyone out yet?
No. I haven't got much hands going at the moment, but...
Been punched yet?
No, not yet.
No? Okay.
No. Eventually I'll do some sparring and see what happens.
Good. Wouldn't want to come across you in a dark alley.
No.
Oh, well, I'll be swinging to the wall at this rate. All right. So, why are we here today? What are we talking about?
So we talk about goals, and specifically the different types of goals, and how I guess the different types of goals can facilitate the growth and the progression to those bigger overarching goals that athletes might set out.
And I guess from our perspective, how we've actually helped people, because obviously we talk about goals. What makes us individuals or somewhat experts in talking about this?
Well, I guess number one, just from our own personal experience, I know each of us here have had our own goals, whether it might be in sport, growing up younger years, and just seeing how our own experiences have benefited us or have deterred us from being able to achieve those goals. So I guess from that one side of things, and then I guess number two is just experience with other athletes that we've had already, and seeing that how not their over exuberant ambition is maybe deterring them, but just how we can better focus on being able to achieve those bigger goals just on a day-to-day basis, and the steps that it may take to get there.
Yeah, so essentially goals give us direction. So, we're an athlete or a person that have goals. It gives us direction, not just just floating about goalless and aimless. So it gives us direction what we want to achieve in life.
Yeah, it gives us some deliberate action at the end of the day. So not just turning up to training for the sake of training. What are we trying to extract specifically out of training? Like, what are the things do we want to work on or focus on and develop, which is going to help us towards our goals?
That's it. So that segues nice into our first question. So a bit of direction. So as a coach, we know goals are really important things to set on the journey of becoming successful athletes, but not all goals are equal. So can you go more into depth about what goals there are?
Yeah, so I guess there are two main types of goals. We've got outcome and process-oriented goals. So our outcome goals are sort of the end point and sort of the big picture point of success that athlete might want to achieve. So whether it be, achieving a national squad, making a representative team, playing professional league, or getting that contract that the athlete might want. And then the process goals is just the small steps, the small incremental milestones that the athletes need to achieve in order to get to that big outcome goal. So that might be achieving PBs in the gym, in training.
Getting state times, national times.
Yeah, reducing the amount of injuries they're getting, and extending the amount of time that they're being able to train and play. Changing their nutrition, improving fitness, improving their recovery. I guess making changes to their weight or body composition, whatever it might be, to benefit their sport. And then, improving their ranking, and then ultimately, I guess, improving their own self-confidence, because they know they've done all the work that they need to do. So then, I guess, in turn, that's just going to feed hand in hand into achieving their bigger outcome goal.
Cool. Yeah. No, that was well said.
Yeah, so I think, it's really well said. It's kind of like outcome goals are kind of like very external. You have to win this, or you have to reach this level, you have to reach that checkpoint, whereas process more like it helps you to you do process goals along the way to achieve an outcome-based goal.
Yeah. But
process lets you know that your behaviours and more internal-based stuff is driving you there.
Yeah, so the outcome goals, I guess, are very objective. It's either you got it or you didn't. And the process goals are, yes, objective. You either got your PB or didn't. But in other sense, it's very subjective in nature. Like, if things felt easier, they're moving better, that's going to improve your confidence. And confidence, I guess, is not very measurable. It's up to the individual to be able to see. So I guess it's another way that you can classify the different types of goals there. Is that if you know you're moving with more confidence, you're able to, achieve the outcomes that you're after.
Yeah, I think adding to that, I guess with their process goals, it helps to focus on the day-to-day stuff.
Yeah.
More so. and then you're living life with a little bit more purpose and a bit more pep in your step, you know. And the best part is, I reckon, having process-based goals is what happens when motivation dips.
Yeah.
It will dip. And will you be ready for it? That's the main thing. And that's why having, you know, small process goals in terms of like turn up the training, having, you know, that diary of 1 or 2 things you can focus on, and that's all you have to focus on throughout that whole session.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. Get the work done, then you'll feel a lot more accomplished because of the delayed gratification that comes from that.
Yeah, and it just makes it more realistic. Like if your goal is to, I don't know, make the AFL, and that's all you ever focus on, every day you go to the gym or you go around to the park to kick the footy, and there's no goals for that individual session. All you're thinking about is, I want to make the AFL. You haven't even made, I don't know, representative team, NAB league, you're not even best and fairest, blah, 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 whatever it might be. You realise how far away you are from your goal you really are. So it's just going to deter you and make, okay, what's the point of even doing this? But if you give yourself the day, okay, each day, okay, so make the AFL, what do I need to do? Make this team, blah, 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 blah. Okay, how do I do that? I need a bit better handballing, better on my left foot, opposite foot, better tackling, better improve my fitness. And that gives you a goal each day. So you know, okay, well, I got better on my handballing today, so now I'm closer to my goal already. So it just breaks it down and gives you that, I guess, snowball effect. By you ever to knock down these small process-oriented goals, then you're just going to gain a lot more confidence into achieving that bigger goal there.
And it's kind of like the work harder and work smarter kind of idea. Eventually, like when you get to a point, you want to work as hard as you can to a point. Then you're going to have to try and work smarter. And working smarter is setting up more process-orientated goals, because eventually you will hit a wall from just working so hard on every single little thing.
Yeah, because the process goals are all individual in nature. Like the outcome goals are very generic and broad for anyone. So I don't know, X amount of kids want to make the AFL, and that's a very broad goal. But you know, you got individual positions, you got individual strengths in each position, you got individual weaknesses for each individual there as well. So you're just breaking it down. So the process becomes very individualized for the athlete, for each sport.
Very clear to achieve. Yeah.
It's not overwhelming.
That's right. Like you're not going to have a ruckman that's trying to get the same fitness times as a midfielder or small forward, or expect the same sort of skill level and whatnot. So they're just breaking it down. Like we said, it's very subjective, very individualized, the process goals are, whereas the outcome goals is just, I guess, a bit more generic, and it's obviously it's needed to have that ambition to succeed, but we just need to break it down a bit further.
Yeah, I think with the outcome goals, it's like, especially if you have a really big goal, such as trying to like crack into the AFL or the NBA or the NFL or whatever it is, it's you always be kind of upset that you're not there yet, or like you're just ever so far away. Whereas if you're smart and you reverse engineer back the steps you need to take, then you can literally work it down to the simplest things, where it might be sleep 8 hours a night, get 2 grams of protein per kilo body weight, you know, things like that. Rock up to every single training. Yeah. Those process-orientated goals will just build up brick by brick to achieve the big outcome goal.
Yeah, because if you're a kid now, say you're 14, 15, and your goal is to make the AFL, I guess the most common pathway is by making the draft when you're 18 years old, and then if that's your big final crescendo and that doesn't occur to you, well, then it's very easy to just throw it all away, pack it all away. But you know, the reality is there's so many other pathways to get to where you need to go. So I guess that's where the, like you say, the process goals come in handy. Okay, well, you didn't achieve this goal now, it's just a hurdle that you need to overcome, and then there's so many opportunities to still get to where you need to go.
Exactly, because you've done the process-based things to get you to that level.
You already know it works, so now I'm just going to keep doing it until I get there.
That's it. Anything to add there?
No.
Okay.
No, good.
So that's really good. So what steps can athletes take into achieving their long-term goals? Can they use outcome-based goals or process-based goals to drive their progress?
Yeah, so like we're just speaking about now, I guess the main focus into bridging that big gap in between in the two is you're taking the process-oriented goal routes, obviously. So looking at their nutrition, so the amount of protein that they're getting, the amount of carbs and fats, we need a balance of all three there, and then we can play around with the amount of protein for the sport. If they're more power-based, going to need a bit more protein, so footy players, NRL players, basketball players, more or less so. So any contact sport's going to have different demands to non-contact sports and vice versa. Obviously, increased sleep. The more you're training, the more effort you're putting into his goals. The more physically fatiguing it's going to be, but also the more mentally fatiguing it's going to be. So ensuring that we're getting enough sleep. So more sleep is obviously preferred, especially for athletes and adolescents in those younger years as well. Their training, so having a clear focus in their training, whether it's every gym session or every training session for their sport, as well as in conditioning or speed sessions, having that goal. Okay, so today I want to increase my deadlift, I want to get better on bench press, or you're going into a footy training where I want to, spend 80% of my time on my dominant foot, spending 20% of the time on my weak foot, and be able to improve that and have some metric to, I guess, assess whether you were successful or not in there as well. And then, being able to assess whether you did or didn't achieve those targets for that individual session. And then, looking at improving your stress management around the performance, so improving your own confidence and whatnot. And then, lastly is looking at results. So the process goals are subjective in nature. We still need a metric to be able to assess whether it's being achieved or whatnot. So again, results, whether it be the weekend results, your training results, getting the PBs, improving, and then you'll be able to look at why not, and what can I do to get to there if I need to.
Yeah, I think that's another really good one. It's about results. It's like sometimes these goals you won't achieve.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, what can you do with that data? Like, it's like failure is a part of success, and that's another podcast. So scroll down through our podcast to find that one. But it's definitely, can you use the results to drive progress? And if you're failing, why are you failing? And use that failure to drive even more progress.
Yeah.
And it helps to ask questions, or questions that would not necessarily pop up. If we've got all this data and metrics, right, where subjective, objective, coaches' feedback, whatever it may be, then we can actually start to ask more questions. And I think that's the route that we've taken here quite heavily now, is getting not as much data, but extracting the right type of data specifically. So for us swimmers, going to their training sessions, filming their swims, but also filming their dives, filming their turns, and extracting as much data as we can, and tracking, have those dives or turns actually improved over time based on what we see, but also based on what the athlete feels. So then we can actually see whether or not we're going to transfer effect within the actual training. So that's the one thing swimmers would want to see, is the transfer effect and what's actually happening. The other thing that I like is looking back specifically for the athletes. And I think sometimes we forget how far we've come. And I think this is the probably most important part of, once you've got a process or a system in place, I think it's imperative to be able to backtrack, and once you've followed it long enough, and see what lessons you've actually learnt. And you may not know what the lessons are because you're just living it and you're not consciously aware of it. It's kind of on a subconscious level. Then you'd be like, I actually have put the work in. I've done what I think has been the most important thing, and addressed the flaws or the holes in my game, or within just what I do in terms of nutrition and training wise. We get the feedback from the coaches as well. It's like, and we know then they've kind of leveled up from that point as well as an athlete. They've kind of moved on from when they first started, kind of trying to work on everything at once.
Yep.
Then we concentrate their focus specifically on one or two things. Then we can kind of layer it with the next two things, and the next two things, and the next two things. And that's kind of like the approach that we've done here. And it's been really successful for many of our athletes to really kind of step up their game. And that creates more buy-in, because they're seeing the progress, they're feeling the progress, and we get them to backtrack to see where they were in order to move forward.
Yep. So, the next question is, an athlete, is there anything that you and Trent do to help your athletes to stay on track with their goals, and to really minimize that risk of failure?
So I think something we started trying to play around with now specifically is getting the athletes to use, whether it be a notebook, a diary, Google Calendar, whatever sort of tracking system they like to use. There's plenty of apps or resources out there that they can use, and just using it to, like we've been speaking about, track all these little things that they're doing each day, and having a clear focus and plan for each process that they need to take to be able to achieve the better race meet time this weekend, or whatever it might be. So looking at and ensuring that they have a goal for the block so for each training block, whether that be for their sport or in the gym. And again, that sort of comes hand in hand with the coaches. So they're working very closely with the coaches here and keeping an open communication to ensure that, all parties are aware of what's going on. So, making sure that the swim coaches know how much strength training is being done and vice versa, so we're not overworking them. So the athlete knows what the goal of the block is, whether it might be improving their general fitness, improving their strength, their power, their speed.
Or the specific needs that might have a deficit.
Yeah.
Like with Jess, she addressed that her breaststroke was her weakest stroke in the IM.
Yeah.
And the more we do, we address that within the warm-up itself.
Yeah.
And basically it's short course stace. She said that was probably the strongest leg.
Yeah. So then, and there's recess and the other 3 legs then to improve it for the next block. So, and then, so I guess number 2 is having the goal for the block and then having the goal for the individual session. So a Monday might be, I don't know, whatever their swimming session, it might be working on their pull. Tuesday might be working on their kick, and then, I don't know, Thursday might be another session. So the goal, individual goal for the session there for their individual sport, but then again here, so it might be, we don't have to improve or go up in weight for every single exercise.
Could
every
just be
single day.
just show up for the session and that's it. That could be one goal.
Yeah. It might be, I don't know, being able to do this movement in the warm-up with more control, or be able to, I don't know, whatever it might be, whatever the individual goal is, whatever you're working on for the individual session. And then having that assessment of yourself, so looking back at the end of the session and saying, yes, no, did I achieve what I wanted to? If I didn't, why not? And what can I do next time? So that's where the coach's role is to be able to provide that feedback. So if they're not there watching you 24/7 like a hawk, they might not be able to give that feedback. So then it's up to the athlete to actively seek that feedback. So like Trent was saying before, it's important that the individual is as involved in the process as possible. It's not supposed to be the coach telling you what to do. Okay, this is your goal, this is what you have to do, because an athlete doesn't have any buy-in in that side of things. So if the athlete sets their own goals for the session, for the block, then they're going to want to seek that feedback. They want to know why. The athletes are competitive, they want to see success, and they want to get to their big outcome goals. So if they're as involved in the process as they can be, then they're going to be, as devoted to seeking that feedback as well.
Yeah. The one thing that we actually do here, with a few of the athletes, I've been doing like performance consultations with them. So I'll sit down with them, for an hour, maybe an hour 15, and really nut out what they did well, what in the last 3 months, what they kind of struggled with in the last 3 months, and kind of like what are the lessons from that, what are the motivational factors to make change, and what are the goals going to be for the next 3 months. And that's actually been really successful for a lot of the kids here, because it creates a real specific focus on what they need to do in terms of first they know what they want. They don't know how to get there. That's the real big issue. Okay, this is how we're going to break it down. And when you really break it down to almost not an hour by hour basis, but like a day by day, if not a week by week basis, it just gives them a bit more clarity and focus on and direction on where they can put their energy into. And that's probably the biggest thing. Kids put their energy everywhere and they want to fix everything all at once. But we're humans, we can't do that. So if we can try and concentrate their energy into one area, and through those performance consults and using systems like you mentioned before, I love Google Calendar, we use that here. Some of the athletes here have like training diaries that they fill in. We get them asking 3 questions, what's the main focus for the session for today? It'll be 2 focuses. Then did I achieve that? Why or why not? The feedback from the coach. Then basically restructuring why not they didn't get that, and restructuring that as next session's goal.
Yeah.
Because then we can continue to chip away at that process-orientated goal. Then if they do achieve it, okay, what's the feedback from the coach? What's the next thing that needs to be worked on? Then you just kind of like chipping away at it. And it becomes like a gradual process where they focus on what they need to do. I know it's not fast, and it's not like making $1 million in 2 hours, but it's that delayed gratification that comes from it, and the results stick long term.
Yeah. So I think especially like you say there, the results aren't going to come immediately. So if you can educate and illustrate to the athlete at the beginning of the block or the session why you're working on this and how it's going to improve I don't know, their kick or their running or their whatever it might be, again, you're getting that buy-in, and they're going to want, so if the athlete knows that, okay, by doing this exercise, I'm going to help improve my backstroke, up kick, or whatever it might be, then they've already got that buy-in. They're like, okay, well, I'm going to keep doing this because it's going to improve my backstroke. And I'm not going to see, like you say, you're not going to see it immediately tomorrow or the next session that you do. But over time, they'll know that if I get stronger at this exercise or doing this movement, then we're going to see the benefits there.
Cool. All right, we're going to wrap this up.
Cool. Don't forget to like, subscribe on YouTube, and like and subscribe to the podcast on Spotify.
Cool. Thanks. See you soon.
Yeah.
You have just listened to the Inner Athlete podcast. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with the release of weekly episodes. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram to get great tips on all things youth athlete development and youth mentoring.